Goswami recognized he was a very gifted scholar. So Rupa Goswami requested Vallabhacharya to review and evaluate and make some editing if he found something that needed correction. Because scholars, good scholars, will do like that. It was common for the 6 Goswamis without all the details. They would regularly review each other's writings and suggest some embellishments or improvements or modifications. It was just a standard procedure amongst these Vaishnavas. So Vallabhacharya, read this particular verse where the word pishachi is there. Bhukti mukti spriha yavat pishachi Riddhi Vartate. Rupa Goswami writes that these two, Bhukti and Mukti, and they're like witches. The material desire to enjoy the material world and the desire to become liberated from material bondage are considered to be two witches. And they haunt one like ghosts. As long as these witches remain within the heart, how can one feel transcendental bliss? As long as these two witches remain in the heart, there's no possibility of enjoying transcendental bliss of devotional service. So, Vallabhacharya didn't like that word, witches. Can you say it's a little softer or a little differently? And he made some comment like that. And Jiva Goswami was there hearing the discussion. And Rupa Goswami's response was basically, let me consider your suggestion. It wasn't a yes or no, it was a maybe. But Jiva, you take him to the Jamuna so he can perform his midday duties. So they went to the Jamuna, and on the way to the Jamuna, Jiva Goswami scolded him. He said, you don't understand who Rupa Goswami is, and it's the perfect word, and here's 10 reasons why it's the perfect word. And he took his midday bath, and when he came back, spent time with Rupa, he said, this nephew of yours, he's very scholarly, and he's powerful, and you're fortunate to have such a qualified young student as Jiva Goswami. And when that came to Rupa's ears, he was upset. And his reply to Jiva Goswami when they were alone was, I've asked him for some service, and you're instructing this vastly superior person about how he's incorrect. I don't appreciate what you've done. This kind of mindfulness is not suited for somebody to live in Vrindavan, so you should leave Vrindavan. So what's Jiva Goswami going to do but follow the instruction of Rupa Goswami, his guru? So he left Vrindavan. But when he left Vrindavan, nobody knew where he was. Until one day, there was a report that Sanatana Goswami had heard that Jiva Goswami is living in an alligator hole along the bank of the river Yamuna, near Nandagat. So there's an alligator hole, by the way. So he went, there wasn't an alligator there anymore. So he went and found there was Jiva Goswami. Something like a month had passed, and he was fasting except eating Jamuna mud. That was his diet, and Jamuna water. And he looked a wreck. Many of you know this whole narration. You probably heard a little different version than what I'm narrating, but that's okay. So Sanatana Goswami took him by the hand. Jiva took him out of the alligator hole and brought him back, but hid him in such a way that Rupa couldn't see him. And Sanatana Goswami, the elder brother, asked the younger brother, Rupa, I have a question for you. What's that? What's the outstanding characteristic of a Vaishnava? Immediately, Jivadaya. Very good. I know one Jiva that needs your Daya, and he's right here. He's understood how you wanted him to not correct a senior person, and he's seeking forgiveness. So on his behalf, I'm requesting you, give your forgiveness to him. Immediately, Rupa Goswami understood the whole situation, and he accepted him. So he's now, again, living in Vrindavan, and thereafter he didn't leave Vrindavan. We'll hear some more details of how that happened. So there was one other situation where a Digvijay scholar, you know the term, the traveling debater, he gave himself the title, Digvijay. And his business, his function, his thing, was he would go to seats of high learning, and he would find out who's the most learned person there, and he'd challenge them. You know, kind of like a Kshatriya challenges another Kshatriya to combat, and a scholar challenges another scholar to debate. Then some topic is picked and they debate. And then the victorious scholar, there's neutral people observing and critiquing, and the victorious scholar then accepts the one who lost as his disciple, and all of the followers of that defeated person becomes his disciple. In this way he gathered followers. So he was like that. He had that kind of capacity and that kind of disposition. So he came to Vrindavan, and he heard about Rupa and Sanatan. And so he suggested separately to Rupa and then Sanatan to engage in debate. And they understood that this fellow's too proud. They don't want to indulge in debate with a proud fellow. No, thank you. And so we'll accept defeat. You're just too smart. Very well, you put it in writing. You tell us how you want it to be written. We'll write it down and we'll sign it. It's yours. So the two did like that. But Jiva Goswami understood why they did what they did. And in his mood of defending the honor of his guru and his guru's elder brother, Sanatan Goswami, he accepted debate because Rupa Narayan heard there's another super scholar here in Vrindavan, so he requested debate. Jiva Goswami accepted the request. The way that this is narrated, it's in the 19th canto of Prem Vilas. That's the source, Prem Vilas. So their topic of debate was, personalism and impersonalism. Is the absolute truth with form or without form? And according to this Prem Vilas, the debate went on for 7 days. And at the end, it was a clear victory. Jiva Goswami was victorious. And Rupa Narayan, because Jiva Goswami was quite young, and Rupa Narayan was the opposite, quite mature and very senior, so he was humiliated. And there's further description in this book. Rupa Narayan remained in Vrindavan and became a student of Rupa Goswami. For some number of years, he studied Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then, having read Rupa Goswami's writings, he started reading Jiva Goswami's writings. And he studied the Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami and Brihad Bhagavatamrita of Sanatan Goswami. He became a Vaishnava. by their association. So something happened to his humility. Humility went out for lunch or something, and he became a humble Vaishnava. And after some time, during his life, he left and carried on. It's significant that on one hand, Rupa Goswami understood this fellow to be proud, but he also understood the motive of Jiva Goswami was not to defeat him. The mood of Jiva Goswami was to honor and defend the honor of his guru and his uncle. So he didn't make an issue of his debating with Rupa Narayan for that reason, the purpose behind it. And celebrated, so this will go like this, the disciplic succession. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course he had his spiritual master, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa and Sanatan, then Jiva Goswami, and then it's easy for the disciplic succession to fizzle or dissipate or become less prominent. But because Jiva Goswami was such a person, he accepted 3 very prominent disciples and trained them thoroughly. They were Shiksha disciples, and then in course of time they were sent in different directions to propagate the teachings of the Goswamis, which is the teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's a place in Vrindavan, not far from Krishna Balaram Mandir, called the Vrindavan Research Institute. And one of the things they have on display here, this is a photograph of Jiva Goswami's handwriting. And so he wrote prolifically, and he taught especially these 3, but others also were students that came. This is a painting meant to show the courtyard of the Radha Damodar temple. And on the altar on the upper right side, this shows Jiva Goswami's deities, that we'll hear some more about his deities, very special deities. Here's the list of some of the 25 books, or 400,000 verses. And this list comes from Bhakti Ratnakar. I mentioned it. So what is it, Bhakti Ratnakar? Bhakti Ratnakar is a book that Narahari Chakravarti composed, and it's a respected book. It just gives the who's who in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes following his departure. So in other words, after Chaitanya Charitamrita finishes, Bhakti Ratnakar picks up. There's a little bit of overlap. So here's just a quick run through. During Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, he had a peer young student, something Shiromani, Rasika Shiromani, something like that, who had written a grammar book. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a student of grammar and a teacher of grammar, and he had already written a book. And the book that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote, which is after he had become a devotee, is How to Understand the Principles of Grammar by names of Hari. So Hari Namamrita Vyakarana, a grammar book, names of Krishna, names of Hari. So Jiva Goswami heard, he understood, and he wrote a text repeating what he heard. He had such a memory. And then another book is a commentary on Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's going to be hard to go through all 25 of these. We'll be here all night. But Gopal Champu is it's a summary of Krishna's pastimes. You can say 10th canto commentary, but it's a particular style. In fact, the style of a champu, Jiva Goswami wrote a book on how to write a champu. And then he wrote a Champu. And in Vrindavan and outside Vrindavan, those two divisions. Then, of course, the all 12 canto commentary on the Bhagavatam, Krama Sandarbha. And then comes the 6 Sandarbhas listed here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's 6 Sandarbhas, including the Sarva Sambhadani commentary. The Sarva Sambhadani commentary, he began writing in Benares, mentioned already. But he's writing commentary before he wrote the book, because he has the thoughts very well organized. And so there's commentary, then there's the thoughts, and then the book, Tattva Sandarbha, and its commentary. It's his most well-known literature of all the well-known literatures that he wrote. Radha Krishnarchana Deepika. It's details and details and details in Jiva Goswami's own style of worship of Radha and Krishna together, as opposed to worship of Radha separately and worship of Krishna separately. Why it is the way it is and how it's done. And then another very interesting book, Radharani becomes queen, and that's what the book is about, but it's called Madhava Mahotsava, the big festival. But so it's Madhava Mahotsava, but Radharani, it's a wonderful book. She becomes angry, Man, and she goes off somewhere, and Krishna looks for her, and this and that, the other thing happens, and they decide to have a big festival in honor of Radharani, and they have a big festival. She's the queen of Vrindavan. Big festival. Mahotsava. Mahotsava, big festival. I noticed that there's some people coming in a little late. I think we're going to have to do what we always do. Could you, those of you in the front, move up a little bit? And those that are behind those in the front, you move up a little bit? And then people that come in late, they'll have a place to sit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. You're very cooperative, thank you. Didn't take so long. Sometimes it takes longer. And so forth. So we won't go through the whole list. Gopal Tapani Upanishad. He wrote a commentary on the Gopal Tapani Upanishad. He wrote a commentary on Brahma Samhita, which Bhaktisiddhanta followed to his commentary on Sri Brahma Samhita. Rasamrita Tika, Ujjvala Nilamani Tika. These are, Tika means commentary. And so forth and so forth and so on. Some of these are obviously more well-known. Some of these are obviously a little less known, but prolific. So here's a very nice way. I like this nice way. Anyway, of 400,000 verses. Question. How many verses are there in Srimad Bhagavatam? 18,000. How many verses are there in Bhagavad Gita? 700. Fantastic. How many verses are there in Mahabharata? You don't know. Mahabharata. How many verses are there in Ramayana? Huh? 24,000. So it's like during his lifetime, you know, he wrote philosophy, not just stories. So it's like he wrote 7 or 8 Srimad Bhagavatams, a couple of Mahabharatas and a couple of Ramayanas and 6 or 7 Bhagavad Gitas. Because it was high philosophy. And then explanations of the high philosophy, commentary on. Very, very productive, very prolific, and super, super, super authority. Now here's a nice narration. This is also from Bhakti Ratnakar. In a dream, in one of Jiva Goswami's dreams, Rupa Goswami's Govindaji appeared. Excuse me, it was in Rupa Goswami's dream. His deity, Govindaji, appeared. And then Govindaji transformed to the Damodar form and instructed Rupa to carve a deity with these exact features for Jiva Goswami. And so he did. So the photo on the upper left, that's Govindaji deity in Jaipur, now in Jaipur. And on the upper right, that's Rupa Goswami. So he carved the deity personally, and he composed the prana mantra for the deity. Translated goes like this. O Lord Damodar, whose dark bodily luster embarrasses the blue lotus flowers, the splendor of whose silken garment stuns the glory of yellow kumkum, who enjoys transcendental pastimes in Vrindavan forest, whose chest is fragrant with a brilliant flower garland, and whose magnificent arms rest on Radha's shoulder. Let us meditate. So this is drawn from Jiva Goswami's writings, Stavamala. There's one of the stavas. And here's the deity that he carved, 8 inches tall, from black marble, said to have come from the Vindhya Parvat mountain, now in Jaipur. And very close up of the deity. Here's a little bit further away, you see Radha peeking behind her flower garland. Here's another nice photograph of Radha and Damodar, the very same deity that Jiva Goswami worshipped. And here's the same deity pictured in, now I think the deity is in Jaipur. Yes? Yes. I believe so. Yes. Close-up of the face of the deity. Now, initially there was no Radha Damodar temple. In fact, all there was the Seva Kunj area. This is a photograph of what's remaining of the Seva Kunj area. And he worshipped his deities in one of the groves in the Seva Kunj area. Then after some time, Jiva Goswami, being the expert Goswami that he was, he made an arrangement with the Ali Kant Chaduri, Emperor Akbar's local landlord, to purchase some land in Vrindavan. Now, those of you that know Vrindavan a little bit, you know that this range of area is it's a big, big area. The Seva Kunj area was then from Imli Tal, that's down by the Jamuna River, and Rasastali, that's not so far from Imli Tal, and then all the way up to Dan Guli and Shringarstali. So those are their trees that he identified, and he purchased this vast tract of land for 35 rupees. He was a good businessman. And then he built the temple. And then the temple, inside the temple, went the deities. And there's some very detailed description in Bhakti Ratnakar that how Jiva Goswami worshipped the deity with such love. He cooked for the deity something very special. Then he sat before the deity, made the offering, and watched the deity eat. So the deity would eat his offering, and he would watch. And sometimes the deity would dance, and he would sing while the deity would dance. And sometimes he was called by Damodar to hear his flute playing. And when he heard the flute playing of Damodar, he fainted. And then he composed some prayers after fainting, and he came to external consciousness. Oh Hari, all glories to your childhood pastimes, which you enjoy with Balaram. You give happiness to Mother Yashoda with your crawling. And the sight of you blesses the eyes of every last person in Vrindavan. O child, the eager movements of your feet stir your anklets to make tinkling sounds that delight the hearts of all. O Krishna, even when you meet strangers, you share your bliss with them, and then quickly crawl back onto the safety of your mother's lap. This is from songs from Gopal Champu, but his prayers that he offered in spontaneous devotion. Just who can understand the spiritual elevated status of the Goswamis, and here's this one, Jiva Goswami. Now on the altar at the Radha Damodar temple, because he was such a qualified Vaishnava, when their circumstances called for it, the altar became then the place of worship of many other deities. So Radha Vrindavan Chandra, worshipped by Krishna Das Kaviraj, and then Radha Damodar, now in Jaipur. So here's the close-up of the deity. Now, because his notoriety of a writer and a Vaishnava and so many, he was once invited by Emperor Akbar to go all the way to visit his place, his empire, and engage in a debate. And Jiva Goswami agreed on one condition, that he could return to Vrindavan before the night fell. So a royal carriage was sent. He went to the Emperor Akbar's court, and he had this debate. And the topic of the debate was, which one is greater, the Ganga or the Jamuna? How'd you like to debate that topic? And he was so much appreciated, the emperor wanted to give him gifts. So he just asked for one thing, writing paper from China. Because he was using leaf plates, and that's like, a nice way to write, just writing paper from China. So the king did that. Some say that he agreed for the king to provide him with copies of Puranas that were available in Benares, where he had done his undergraduate study. In addition, so there's this loving relation between Akbar and Jiva Goswami. Akbar donated funds to Jiva Goswami for establishing a library for all the Goswami literature, which became like a treasure. All the Goswami literature was entrusted to Jiva Goswami, and a library to preserve and protect. And at this library, described in Urdu, because that's the language of Akbar, Jiva Goswami placed a sign honoring Emperor Akbar's character and benevolent position regarding protecting Vaishnavas. And this is what it says in Urdu. Maharaj Akbar is a good and Vaishnava ruler. in his kingdom, the Vaishnavas are protected. So much later, 1945, the head of the Goswami of the Radha Damodar temple transferred the 6 Goswami library from the temple to the Vrindavan Research Institute. But it was for a long time, just at the Radha Damodar temple. Compliments of Jiva Goswami, gatherings, the originals, like you saw his Jiva Goswami's handwriting. So there's sometimes there's question about, the manuscript, the original manuscript of such and such. Like, without going into it, there's sometimes question on topics like that. Like, what's the real Mahabharata? There's a lot of discussion about that amongst intellectuals. I won't go into it, but there's a lot of discussion about it. One conclusion is there isn't one. And that's I didn't read this directly from Madhvacharya, but Sri Dayananda Maharaj asserts like 16 times when I visited in Gainesville. He said there's no original manuscript. There's too many discrepancies. The original manuscript is not, there is no such thing, because discrepancies between this and that, and so there's no original Vyasadev's Mahabharata. Nonetheless, just a detail, but nonetheless, Madhvacharya wrote a commentary on Mahabharata. These parts that he accepted were authentic. How do you tell what Vyasadeva wrote, what Vyasadeva didn't write? I don't know. But some parts are authentic, and he wrote commentary on that portion. Okay, so now, in the 34th year of Akbar's rule, Akbar's commander-in-chief minister Raj Man Singh constructed a temple for Govindaji. You've heard his name before, but that connection is of course, it's Rupa Goswami's deity, but the principal relationship included the 6 Goswamis, and very strongly Jiva Goswami. Akbar gave 8 to 10 lakhs of rupees to cover the expense. So his chief minister constructed it. Akbar paid for it, along with the land for the temple construction, as well as the land for Madan Mohan temple. So very benevolent. Engraved in stone in the right quadrant of the main temple hall is Jiva Goswami's Govinda Astakam, wherein he is blessing the emperor. There it is in Sanskrit, in case you read Sanskrit. When Akbar used to easily and peacefully rule the whole earth well, then all the gentlemen experienced happiness while following their respective religions freely, and knowing the abode of Lord Govinda's place to be the abode of the best, Vaishnavas repeatedly blessed him. And here's where it's written, what I just said. There it is in Sanskrit, in the cornerstone, the corner of the building. Very much, it was a dangerous time during Muslim rule, Pathan rule, and so forth and so on. There are different parts of India. It was very dangerous. And the subsequent ruler was also a very dangerous fellow. But Akbar was different. And Vaishnavism flourished under him. Emperor Akbar gifted a very large diamond to Madhavendra Puri's Gopal deity, which was placed on his chin, where it remains to this day. You see on his chin the diamond. Here's a drawing of the diamond that's on his chin from compliments of Emperor Akbar, and honoring Gopal. And here's another nice illustration of the same. So, what's going on here? We did this. So, at Janava's request, Janava. Who's Janava? You know who's Janava? Wife of Nityananda. You're good. Okay. And so, Nityananda had departed, but Janava remained. And Janava was the superlative Vaishnavi during her time. And she was not residing in Vrindavan, but Jiva Goswami was residing in Vrindavan and training the next generation. He had this vast library of all the Goswami literature. And so she asked Jiva Goswami, can you make copies? Have your scribes make copies and then pack them up and send them over here to where we are on the eastern side of India? It's a traveling Sankirtan party. Book distribution ki jai. There's some history. And so, the eastern parts of India, particularly Bengal and Orissa, to lift the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiva Goswami did this. There's the bullock cart. We know the history. The bullock cart got kidnapped. And they discovered the books, and then the king that had them kidnapped, because his astrologer said, there's passing through your kingdom, there's this vast wealth, and he did know his books. And then they discovered the books, and he became a Vaishnava. And along with the three principal disciples. Do you know the names of those three principal disciples? You know one of them? Narottam Das Thakur, right? Shyamananda Pandit. Srinivasacharya. Narottam Shyamananda Pandit, Srinivasacharya. Three. Those three, along with the books, were sent by Jiva Goswami. He trained them, and then he sent the books at Janava's request. The books got kidnapped, and the fellow that kidnapped them became a Vaishnava. During this time, when Jiva Goswami was living in Vrindavan, it is said, Mirabai was also sometimes in Vrindavan, and she requested a meeting with Jiva Goswami. Now that was like, a little delicate, because he's a super renunciate and she's not a super renunciate. She's a Vaishnavi, and when in certain circumstances, it's understood they met. Jiva Goswami, arranged, he's like, he's not an engineer, but he arranged the excavation of the now existing Radhakund. As you know, once upon a time, Raghunath Das was very much appreciated, and somebody, a wealthy gentleman, wanted to give him a major donation. Raghunath said, no thanks. I gave up wealth long ago. But if you want, you can do some service. You can build a kund for Radharani. So he said, sure. What should it look like? Talk to Jiva. He'll tell you what it should look like. And so that's what happened. 1, 2, 3. And maybe some of you have seen the photographs. Periodically they drain Radhakund, and it's really deep. Jiva Goswami, very well planned. Arranged for Rajman Singh to build the first 8 steps on all sides of Radhakund. Rajman Singh. Jiva Goswami, you're going to write 400,000 verses and all of that, and you're going to do all this? And train the next successive acharyas? Jiva Goswami's memory was so sharp it is said he would compose commentaries within his mind. There was no computer or no word processor or no spell check or none of that. And he would compose in his mind, and then later he'd write it down verbatim for how it was composed in his mind. Jiva Goswami was entrusted by Rupa Goswami to add all his writings to the vast library of the Goswami literature, which Jiva had already established, and to write commentaries on all of Jiva Goswami's, which really all of Rupa Goswami's writings. So he did. And it's not Mahabharata. Here's the Radha Damodar temple structure in the front of the scene. Their temple structure in the front of the scene. I recall very clearly conducted a visit to the Radha Damodar temple, and there he gave the celebrated Nectar Devotion series. And it was on the side. So if you're looking at the altar on the right side, it previously, no longer, previously you could circumambulate around the temple. Now it's like too much stuff going on there. So, but the next Kartik month, I happened to be in Vrindavan, and I remember very clearly Guru Das telling us all these stories and taking us behind the temple. And that behind the temple was a place that was shade. You know, in the summer in Vrindavan it gets like really hot. So the Goswamis would meet together in this kind of down. When we went there was a board across. I don't know what's there now, but probably it's filled in. But it was at that time it was the place where they would sit together, where it was cool, and they would discuss Krishna Katha, what books they're writing, what the topics they're discussing, and who knows what platitudes or levels of understanding they were covering. But it was a quiet little place. It was like a headquarters, the Radha Damodar temple, because there weren't so many temples, but he built the first one, and then there was others and others, but it was very centrally located. And then it was from there the 6 Goswamis also strategized the spreading of Krishna consciousness, and the executor of that was Jiva Goswami and those who he had trained. So important in our disciplic succession. Here's the full altar, as I mentioned. Deity after deity after deity were placed here because they were well cared for by Jiva Goswami, and a suitable temple that was safe. Safety in Vrindavan is a big deal. So here's a little list going from left to right. Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Radha Damodar of Jiva Goswami with Lalita, Jayadev Goswami's Radha Madhava, Bhugarva Goswami's Radha Chanchi Kaniya. Chalchi Kaniya. And here they are again, in sequence from left to right. And in the center, the celebrated deity with Gopi Chandan and Chandan Yatra time. Now, Jiva Goswami also had a little place that he would sometimes stay in the area of Radhakund. So this is the deity, Jiva Goswami's deity, formerly Vilas Manjari Gopi, who is here on the altar. We're about to end. Jiva Goswami, a prayer was written to Jiva Goswami by a poet, Rashi Bihari Sakya Tirtha. To the peerless lotus feet of Srila Jiva Goswami, I offer constant obeisances. He is a desire-fulfilling tree who possesses a mind full of compassion and is a true friend of the fallen and distressed, always considering himself to be a bee-like servant at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami and Sri Sanatana Goswami. He contributed many conclusions in his books to spread the glories and fame of Lord Krishna far and wide. And Baladev Vidyabhusan similarly wrote this nice praise of Jiva Goswami. By the mighty spade of his nectarian words, Jiva Goswami tossed aside the dirt of the fallacious Sankhya arguments and recovered Krishna's splendor from the pits of Vivartavad. May he be our refuge. Like, chivalrous, valorous kind of writing. And here's our last slide. This is from Bhakti Ratnakar. Now, another celebrated Vaishnava, a contemporary of the Goswamis, was Narayan Bhatta Goswami from a different sampradaya, but he assisted them very effectively in reestablishing where the places of Krishna's pastimes were. Very celebrated personality, Narayan Bhatta Goswami. And this is his writing, taken from Bhakti Ratnakar. I offer my repeated humble obeisances unto Srila Jiva Goswami, whose heart is constantly attracted to the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami. He is the crest jewel of all Vaishnavas, all Vrajvasis, and due to his causeless mercy, he bestows unimaginable joy to even the non-philosophical, dull-headed, and lazy people by his deep philosophical views. Now, most people who are dull-headed and lazy, Jiva Goswami's writings are like... So unimaginable joy to people who are dull. I don't know. But that's his appreciation, in any case. Narayana Bhatta Goswami. So that's our topic. For those of you that came in a little bit after we began, 2 days ago was the appearance day of Lord Vamanadev, Vamana Dwadasi, and on the Dwadasi day is also the appearance day of Jiva Goswami, so we're doing 2 days late, but it's okay. Jiva Goswami won't mind. Now that's, can you see the screen from way over there? Yes? You got a mirror or something? Okay. So any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, can you please help me to understand Champu and the style of Champu? And I heard Gopal Champu has a lot of songs. I would like to know a little bit about
I don't have the answer to that question, but Jiva Goswami does. I don't. Yes, songs, and yes, the format. It just happens to be the same format as many scriptures. There's a person asking questions, person answering the questions. So Snigdha Kanta, Madhu Kanta, and there's a dialogue between those two, and then from time to time it goes into songs. But so it's both the pastimes in and out of Vrindavan, and then the discussion of those two, and then what, and then what, oh really, and then what about, so it's that kind of exchange. But I don't know too much about the style of a champu, sorry.
Thank you much.
Before we go to the next, some of you may not know, but I know, these two plus Nityananda Pran just did a whole series of Ramayana Katha in the Potomac area and Baltimore area and non-ISKCON venues and ISKCON venues, and they had a blast. Nityananda Pran sent me a text message. 30 said our final session begins in 30 seconds. Because I just sent him a message. How's it going? Went amazingly well, I imagine. Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
Sure. Of the four venues, which did you like the most?
The Hanuman temple.
Oh.
That was arranged by Radha Duti Mataji.
Okay.
In that area, you know.
The most. Oh.
That was arranged by Radha Duti Mataji.
Okay.
And we covered a few topics out of that: Sita Kalyanam and Kakasura, the best kept secrets in Ramayana.
Yeah.
And Vibhishna Sharanagati was our first one, you know, that.
But the topic of the Hanuman Mandir was about Sita
Kalyanam.
Kalyanam. Sheesh. And not Sundarakanda, huh? Okay. And then singing along with the narration.
Yes.
And music along with the singing. And you came to this evening's program after all you did over the weekend. Congratulations, well done. I understand there's further invitations. Okay. Now, back here. Just pass it behind.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you so much for sharing all the historical events. It really helps. It's so nice. One quick question about Meera Mother Mirabai. So she did meet with Goswami?
My understanding is under certain circumstances they met.
And any dialogues that they exchanged? What was it about?
I don't. I can research it, but I don't know right as I'm sitting here at the moment. But you know, he was appreciating and she was appreciating. That much I know. And you know, she did what she did, and he did what he did. She did some singing, and he was appreciating.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maharaj.
Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, when you showed Jiva Goswami's handwriting and his beads and like things that made him feel very contemporary or real, it made me think of like, feel hopeful that like we can reach Krishna in this world type of a thing. But then when I hear that he was a gopi, or like when I see that he had a position in the spiritual world, sometimes it goes back to feeling like unreachable, if that makes sense at all. But I was wondering if you had any words to kind of help me understand how to connect with the Goswamis without feeling so far away. But obviously they are also so far away, if that makes sense. So.
Well, it's not just the Goswamis. I can give some other examples, but you know, our great acharyas, I'll just back up. You're a little bit familiar with this area. Saturday, I was at Champaign-Urbana. University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. Never heard of that place, right? Your husband. She's heard of that place. And the topic was, who are you? So it's a nice topic, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The feedback, I was told afterwards, like 6 people, the students really liked it. They, it was a good beginning for them for the semester to have that in their bonnet. But we didn't get into, Siddhadaya, the spiritual form. That's, that may come later. So same for you. When you hear about spiritual form, or this gopi or that one or the other one, it's far away, but that's the platform that they were functioning on. They were functioning in the world at the same time they were not in the world. The day after Vamana Dwadasi was the appearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We discussed about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he, in his songs, I had some discussion after the class, he, in one of his songs, he indicates who his spiritual form is, his spiritual identity, and his 12 and a half years old eternally, and the sari that she wears, and that's who I am. But he's married with 10 kids, and in the world, and a high court judge, and dealing with this and that and the other thing, and so they're quite fluid. These personalities that's the platform from which they're functioning. And yet at the same time they can give to us ABC. And that's the compassion. Because they're not, in other words, and here's one other thing. Very prominent during Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, at least, was, and otherwise, was the presence of Babajis, followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who just immersed themselves in chanting and divorced themselves from the world. Just became, became Babajis. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had friends that were Babajis, but he was a householder with 10 kids in the world doing stuff. Without all the details of the stuff he was doing. Many things. This was a few days back in our discussion at the temple. So he's fluidly able to move between these realms. But that's who they are. Who are you? We're not the body. That's okay. Then who are you? And then so you identify the distinction between the soul and the body. That's good. Then keep going. And then where does that go? And where does that go? And where does that go? And so they keep going. And they're giving us signals or messages or written understandings or songs and poetry and this and that to take us there. So some people aren't able to pick up that subtlety, and some people may be intimidated by the subtlety, like, uh-oh, too far away. But that's where they are. And even when they're doing his handwriting and chanting on beads and building the Radha Damodar temple and excavating the Radhakund and, stuff, engineers stuff. In our contemporary life, not just you, but in our contemporary life, speaking in a general sense, we're all meant to keep going, but not in an artificial way, but in a natural way. in the way of like just keeping it really simple, following of the 6 Goswamis. That's easy. Follow the 6 Goswamis. And where are they? When you follow the 6 Goswamis, that's where they are. But you can follow them according to your capacity. And don't artificially become a sahaja and pretend that you're something that you're not. Not to say you, but any one of us. And there are some people I know that do like that. They imitate and they're not there. It's like transparently clear. Okay. Good luck. But by careful following, then you be the careful follower. Follow sadhana bhakti, and don't lack in sadhana bhakti, and then become, keep going. And what's the keep going look like? I'm just continuing the same question. You know that I gave a seminar on Manushiksha. And I was kind of like intimidated. Uh-oh, it's too high. And I don't think I'm going to understand it. If I can't understand it, how can I give a seminar on something that's so high I can't understand it? But I got a little urging from a couple people. Urmila was one of them. Because she had given a seminar on Manushiksha and said, go for it, et cetera, et cetera. So, in Manushiksha, he's explaining how to get there. In really simple language. Really simple. Then applying that simple language, it elevates consciousness. How to move from sadhana to raga bhakti. How to, and not artificially, but in a very natural way. And it's very simple, and it starts with give up pride. Ooh. Step number 1, give up pride. Oh, that's too high. And then follow the perfected souls. He names names. Rupa Goswami, Swarup Damodar. No, Swarup Damodar for him is Lalita. But he didn't say Lalita, he said Swarup Damodar, because he's Swarup Damodar. And through Swarup Damodar, he understood everything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood through Lalita, or through Swarup Damodar. He understood the esoteria. So become a follower of, so learn about those personalities. That's why it's really good to hear these. So what goes in, fine. And if something is like too high, it bounces, that's fine too. You can act from your position, but also know where the train's going. Be a good sadhaka, and do sadhaka in such a manner that you can associate with those that are more elevated, more elevated, more elevated. Don't be intimidated by, don't be an imitator of, but be respectful and learn the way of life by association with those personalities. Without pride. Because there's a whole thing. But it's absolutely inconsistent that there's someone who's spiritually elevated and they're proud. But it's really easy to be proud of, you name it. Be proud of the fact that you just did a little tour with Nityananda Pran and Jyotirmaya sang some wonderful classical songs and people clapped. And it was like, yay. At last I got a venue I can... By the way, I met one of your students. 11-year-old student. Janava. From Champaign-Urbana. She likes you. Yeah, I know you do. She's a very likable young girl. Her poise is remarkable for a little girl. Her light's on. So anyway, so it's easy to get proud of anything. drop of a hat, get proud. Yeah, sure. So, it doesn't beat that one, he just says it. And then leave that behind and go over here. Sadhana, yes. And go over there. And don't be proud while you're going over there. It's easy. The other is it's the path of purity, and the path of purity is necessary to go to a higher place in the company of those who are in that higher place, and they're holding your hand because they're very kind. Okay. I think I've over-answered your question. Anyone else? I thought so. Sri Radhika. No. Over here. No.
There was a question, Guru Maharaj, on Champu, so I was inspired to share that Bir Krishna Maharaj has an app, and he's recorded dramatic reading with music, Gopal Champu, and many of the other books. There's Natak Chandrika and Danakeli Kaumudi, and just very beautifully for people who are busy and can read audiobooks of many of these.
But that's his question is what's a champu?
Yeah, I'm not answering that, Guru Maharaj. I just thought I'd let everybody know that there's an app out there with all these beautiful recordings.
So I invite you write a letter. She knows how to reach him. You write a letter to Bir Krishna Maharaj saying, could you share with me the answer to this question? And then once you get an answer, share it with us. You have something else, I'm sure.
Question, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
I understand that Jiva Goswami placed many of the books of the Goswamis in Granth Samadhi.
Not many, some.
Okay. So we saw the list of his books, and he wrote 400,000 verses. Were most of them, or many of them, placed in Samadhi too?
No.
Or there?
My understanding is limited, but my limited understanding goes like this. Rupa Goswami entrusted his entire writings to Jiva Goswami, and my understanding is, this is from Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj primarily, in the corner of the Madan Mohan temple, there are some samadhis of Vaishnavas, but way over in the corner, there's a Grantha Samadhi, and some of the writings of Rupa Goswami were so esoteric, that's the only word that's used, esoteric, that people won't understand. And so they were put in Grantha Samadhi. Some of Rupa Goswami's, not some of his, some of Rupa Goswami's are very elevated, and who knows what was in that because it's in Grantha Samadhi. That's my understanding, primarily from Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj. Okay? Yes?
Guru Maharaj, this is not so much of a question, but just a feeling. I think you actually addressed that as you were responding to Sundari Radha's question. As we are hearing, one part of me is just filled with so much appreciation and gratitude to realize what a lineage we belong to. At the same time, I remember this verse by Rupa Goswami. You have been kindly sharing that verse during Agasura pastime, Prachinanam Amalamatalam. Thinking of these amazing acharyas, and while the mercy is available, while all the resources, your association and your unwavering support and encouragement to us, just looking into the heart, not seeing that Rupa Goswami is saying Bhakti le shalasasya, not even a drop of devotion is there in the heart. Of course, he is speaking from a different platform. Yeah, it's the dichotomy is going in the heart, Guru Maharaj.
Well, you're just repeating what this Narayana Bhatta Goswami says. He bestows unimaginable joy to even the non-philosophical, dull-headed, and lazy people by his deep philosophical views. Now, the light or the power of Jiva Goswami is so powerful that there are ways to take what he has written and express it, in which was largely what Srila Prabhupada did, expressed in language that everyday person can understand and find joy in and become attracted to transcendence through simple language. But the understanding is that one of the major sources for a whole Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition is Jiva Goswami. Of course, Jiva Goswami is a student of Rupa Goswami, expanding, etc., etc. Okay. Looks like we're questioned out. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi.